I was thrown out of my own brother's engagement party, in front of our entire family. 1 minute, I was smiling, trying to hold it together for his big day. And the next, the bride was whispering something into his ear. And I was being asked to leave. No explanation. No warning. Just leave. I stood there, humiliated, watching the people I loved turn their eyes away. My parents wouldn't even meet my gaze. My brother, he just looked tired. Like I was the problem. I didn't argue. I didn't cry. I held my head high, took my daughter's hand and walked out. But inside, I was falling apart. Because I knew, this wasn't just a misunderstanding. This was calculated, cold, planned. And the one person who had been quietly watching it all unfold was my 7-year-old daughter. She didn't say much at first. Just held my hand a little tighter than usual, like she could feel what I was feeling. But that night when we got home, she said something to me. Something that made my blood run cold. I won't tell you what it was. Not yet. But it was the first thread I pulled. And what unraveled afterward was bigger than I ever imagined. She smiled in my face while twisting the knife. But she didn't count on a little girl. Watching, listening, remembering. And if you've ever been blindsided by someone you trusted, if you've ever been betrayed so deeply, you started to question your own sanity, then you'll understand why I couldn't stay silent. Because this isn't just a story about betrayal. It's about family. About loyalty. And about what happens when the quietest voice in the room ends up telling the truth no one else wanted to hear. I didn't sleep that night. I just lay in bed with Ava curled beside me, her small hand resting on my arm, her breathing soft and steady. I kept replaying it all. The moment my brother asked me to leave. The look on Samantha's face. The silence from my family. And underneath it all, that one question Ava had asked me in the car. The one I wasn't ready to answer. But to understand why that moment shattered me, you have to understand who we were. Before all this, I'm a single mom. Not because I planned it, not because it's easy. Just because life gave me one hard decision after another. And I chose my daughter every time. Her name's Ava. 7 years old, impossibly kind, and sharper than most adults I know. The kind of kid who watches the world like she's solving a puzzle, quietly putting the pieces together when no one's looking. And then there's Matt. My younger brother. My best friend once. After our parents divorced, he and I became our own team. I was only 10, but I became his protector, his safe place. I used to read him bedtime stories when Mom worked late. Learned how to cook mac and cheese with barely anything in the fridge. He used to call me, Mom Sis. That's how close we were. So when he met Samantha, I wanted to be happy for him. Truly. I wanted to believe she loved him. I wanted to believe he could have the kind of stable future I never got. And at first, she seemed perfect. Put together, polite, smart. Everyone adored her. But something about her, it didn't sit right. I told myself it was just my own baggage. That maybe I was projecting. That maybe I was afraid of losing him. But then things started happening. Planning the engagement party? I wasn't asked to help. She'd say things like, "Oh, I didn't want to burden you," or "It's fine, I've got it under control." The others didn't notice. Or if they did, they didn't say anything. She made it look like I was pulling away, like I didn't care. But in truth, I was being pushed out, one subtle step at a time. There were inside jokes I wasn't part of anymore. Conversations that stopped when I entered the room. And comments that stung more than they should have, because they were designed to. She'd say things like, "You're so independent. I don't know how you do it alone." Or, "Matt said you're kind of the mom of the family, so I totally get why you're protective." Words that sounded sweet on the surface, but always left me feeling smaller. I started second-guessing myself. Maybe I was overreacting. Maybe it really was me. Until Ava started noticing it too. One night, she looked up from her drawing and said, "Mom, why does Miss Samantha talk about you different when you're not around?" I felt my stomach twist. Because even Ava could feel it. That tension. That duplicity. I brushed it off. Told her not to worry. But inside I was worried. Because I wasn't just losing my place in the family. I was losing my brother. And I was starting to realize I wasn't imagining things at all. We were halfway home when Ava spoke, her voice small from the back seat. "Mom, why did Miss Samantha tell that man not to call her babe at the cafe last week?" I blinked. "What man?" "The one we saw when we were getting pancakes. Remember? You went to the bathroom and they were sitting together. He said, 'Hi, babe,' and she got mad. She told him to stop and said, 'Not in front of Matt.'" My fingers tightened around the steering wheel. I nearly pulled over. Because now it all made sense. The fake sweetness. The controlling behavior. The whisper in Matt's ear. She wasn't just threatened by me. She was hiding something. Something big enough to make sure I was removed before it could come out. And Ava, sweet, quiet, wide-eyed Ava, had seen the one moment Samantha didn't mean to be seen. That night, after Ava went to bed, I sat in the dark with a glass of water in my hand and a fire in my chest. I pulled up every app. Searched Samantha's name. Dug through tags and mentions. It didn't take long. A man named Darren. Older. Expensive-looking watch. Realtor in the next city over. Her colleague, apparently. Except he'd posted a selfie with her 2 months ago, captioned, "Still the one." And a photo 6 weeks before that. Of the same cafe Ava remembered. They were sitting side by side. Smiling. Holding hands. I stared at my screen for a long time. I wasn't crazy. I wasn't overreacting. She was playing my brother. And the only reason I'd been thrown out of that party was because I was the only one who might have known the truth. I wanted to confront her right then. Drive over. Scream. Tell everyone. But something stopped me. Ava's voice, soft and serious, playing over and over in my head. Not in front of Matt. Samantha was careful. She was calculated. If I went in with fire, I'd be painted as unstable. No, I had to be smarter. I had to be quiet. Just like Ava had been. I had to wait. For the right moment. Because the truth was coming. And this time, I'd make sure everyone heard it. I didn't sleep that night. Not because I was sad, but because I had a plan. The next morning, I called the cafe. Asked to speak to a manager. I told him I'd left something valuable there last week. Something sentimental. Then I asked, by any chance, do you remember a woman named Samantha? Brown hair, about 5 feet 7 inches, always with a man who wore a Rolex. Yeah, I think they come in every other Sunday. Sit near the window. Order 2 lattes, 1 almond, 1 soy. From there, it was a rabbit hole of reverse image searches, tagged locations, mutuals on social media. It didn't take long to find him. Darren Whitmore. Her ex from college. Realtor. Divorced. And very much still involved. They'd taken a trip together just a month ago. Beachside Airbnb, tagged in his friend's stories. No pictures on Samantha's feed, of course. But the timestamp didn't lie. I stared at that screen for what felt like an hour. Not out of shock anymore. But strategy. I sent a message to Matt. Can we talk? I need to tell you something. He ignored it. I followed up with screenshots. Posts. Geotags. He finally replied. This is toxic. You need to move on. Samantha said you might pull something like this. That broke me for a moment. Not because I needed to be right, but because I realized just how deep she had gotten into his head. Still I waited. I knew my chance would come. And it did. 1 week later. My parents invited everyone over for a Sunday family dinner, probably trying to smooth things over. I wasn't going to go. But Ava, she tugged on my sleeve that morning and said, "Can I come? I have something to say." So we went. Quietly. Sat at the end of the table like guests at someone else's reunion. Samantha smiled at us like nothing had happened. Like she hadn't orchestrated a public exile and shredded my reputation. Halfway through dinner, while my dad was pouring wine, Ava looked up from her mashed potatoes and said, "Miss Samantha, remember when you told that man at the cafe not to call you babe in front of Uncle Matt?" Silence. It fell over the room like a glass shattering. Samantha's hand froze mid-air. Her smile twitched. Matt blinked. What did she just say? Ava nodded. All innocence. You said, "Not in front of Matt." But you weren't with Uncle Matt. You were with the man in the blue jacket. Samantha stammered. I think she's confused. But I was already pulling out my phone. I didn't raise my voice. I didn't make a scene. I just slid the phone across the table and said, "She's not confused. And you're not careful." I showed the cafe manager's message. The photos from Darren's feed. The geotagged trip. And the final nail. A text I'd found in a comment thread. "Miss you already, babe. Can't wait for next weekend." From Darren. On a post Samantha had liked. Samantha's face changed. Not into guilt. But into rage. "You've been spying on me? Are you serious? This is disgusting." But Matt was no longer looking at me. He was looking at her. "Is it true?" Her mouth opened. Closed. "Matt, you don't understand. Are you still seeing him?" She said nothing. And that was all the answer he needed. He stood up. Took off the engagement ring. Placed it on the table. "You made me choose between my sister and a lie." And then he walked out. No one moved for a moment. The only sound was Ava quietly chewing a carrot. Then my mother looked at me. Really looked at me. "I'm so sorry," she whispered. The drive home was quiet. Ava fell asleep in the back seat, like always. But this time when her little hand touched mine, I smiled. Because in the end, it wasn't revenge that set things right. It was truth. And the quiet voice of a little girl who didn't know she was about to change everything. It didn't all magically fix itself overnight. Truth doesn't erase damage. But it gives you something to build from. Something real. Matt didn't talk to anyone for a few days after that dinner. He just disappeared. I found out later he'd gone to stay with a friend, trying to process everything. But then he showed up at my door. No words at first. Just tears. I hugged him. And for the first time in a long time, we were just brother and sister again. He told me he felt like a fool. Like he'd betrayed me, betrayed himself. But I told him the truth. "You didn't betray me. You just believed someone who lied louder than I could speak." And now he listens. My parents, they apologized too. Slowly. Tentatively. I could see the shame in their eyes when they talked about how easily they looked away. "We thought she was good for him," my mom said. "We didn't see her pushing you out. Until you were gone." But the one person who never needed to apologize was Ava. She didn't even understand the full weight of what she'd done. She just knew something wasn't right. And she said it out loud. That kind of courage? It doesn't come from knowing the stakes. It comes from knowing the difference between right and wrong, even when no one else does. People have asked me since then, "How did you stay so calm?" The truth is, I didn't feel calm. I felt cracked open. Raw. Exposed. But when someone comes for your peace, for your family, for your child, you either crumble or you rise. I was thrown out like trash. Humiliated in front of everyone who was supposed to love me. But in the end, the truth found its way back through the voice of a child. And it was enough. So now, we're healing. Slowly. But together. Matt seeing a therapist. Reconnecting with old friends. Trying to understand how he got so lost in someone else's story. I'm proud of him for that. And Ava? She's thriving. She still draws all the time. Only now, her pictures have more sunlight in them. And sometimes, when she doesn't think I'm looking, she'll glance up from her crayons, smile softly, and say, "I knew you'd fix it, Mommy." Would you have believed a 7-year-old if it meant questioning your entire relationship? Have you ever been pushed out, only to be proven right later?